Hello and welcome to another episode of Katie the Science Lady. I'm Mrs. Jacobson, and today our topic is ecological interactions, or symbiosis. So let's learn together. All right, y'all, time for a quick look at symbiosis. We also call this ecological interactions, but I like the word symbiosis because I think we can break it down into something that makes a lot of sense. Sym, S-Y-M, means together, and bio is life. So symbiosis is really just living together, and that's 100% what it is. It is a lasting relationship between two or more species, and you can see here we have our clownfish, like Finding Nemo, and we have an anemone. I pronounced it right, go me. So these anemone, they kind of create a safe place for these clownfish, and the clownfish will eat anything that tries to get in the anemone's way. So they are living a nice symbiotic relationship together. The first type of symbiotic relationship I want to talk about is mutualism. If something is mutual, it means it's equal from both sides. So in this kind of interaction, both organisms benefit from the interaction. Over here, we've got a butterfly and some flowers. The flowers need pollinators like the butterfly in order to get their pollen from one flower to another flower. So the butterfly isn't trying to do this, but as it moves from flower to flower, it is helping the flowers by transferring the pollen. In addition, the butterfly is getting to eat, so it can eat the nectar from these different flowers, which helps it survive. So they are both benefiting. And I usually show this by just 2 plus signs because both are benefiting. It's a positive for both. The second type of symbiosis we're going to talk about today isn't a happy one. You'll notice I used red here. This is parasitism. And in this case, one organism benefits, the parasite, while the other is harmed. And we call that the one that's harmed the host. So if you ever have seen a tick bite or you think about a leech, those are parasites. The host, whatever the tick is burrowing into or the leech is attached to, the host is not happy with that because they're losing blood, they're losing nutrients, it could make them sick. But the parasite, they get nutrients and they get to survive. So one benefits, the parasite, and the other is harmed. So I use that a plus and a minus. And in this case, the tick gets food from the human, blood, but it causes injury and it can transmit diseases, like Lyme disease is passed on by ticks, which would be a big negative. One of the other types of symbiosis that we're going to talk about today is commensalism. This one I think can be kind of confusing. It's when one organism benefits from an interaction, but the other isn't affected. And this happens a lot, and it can be kind of tricky to parse through, so bear with me here. When a bird builds its nest in a tree, that's a benefit. It has a place to live, it's got shelter, a nice place to raise its babies. But the tree typically is unaffected by this. A tree, it can still grow tall and thrive if there's a nest in its branch. It doesn't really matter. So that would be a commensalistic relationship. So I use a plus sign there for the benefit and a 0 for not being affected. And this is what I picture. I picture that the bird gets to make its nest in a tree, but that tree, it's not helped by a nest and it's not harmed by a nest. So it's just not affected at all. The last couple of types of ecological interaction are predation and competition. Predation is exactly what it sounds like, predator and prey. That bird there is a predator and it's going to eat that insect. Competition would be crowding for resources. So right now, humans compete for resources all the time. It's kind of an old person thing, but if you're trying to buy a house, you compete against others for that resource of having a place to stay, for shelter. It can be very expensive. It can be difficult to buy a house. So that's a competition of its own. Thankfully, nowadays we have a grocery store, so we don't have to go out and try and hunt for our food. But back when people had to do that, that would be a competition. You would have to try and out-compete people for good food. So that would be an issue. Over here, again, our predator-prey relationship, the bird catches and eats insects. And over here, these are anemones, again, like from our original slide, and they will compete for space. So tidal pools have a finite or small amount of space, and anemones can grow, but they have to find their own space to thrive in. So that can be a difficult thing, and that's a competitive relationship.
So when we talk about symbiosis, it is a lasting relationship between two or more species. And there's a couple of quick ways that I like to determine these relationships right off the bat. I think about both species and I say, do they both benefit? If the answer is yes, it's mutualism or a mutualistic relationship. If one organism benefits and another organism is harmed by this interaction, it is parasitism. Think parasite. And if one organism benefits but the other isn't affected positively or negatively, it's called commensalism. A lot of the interactions that we see are going to be commensalistic because one organism will have some sort of benefit, but the other won't be helped or harmed at all. I think those can be the most difficult for us to determine because you just have to really get down to the nitty-gritty of what's happening in this interaction and who benefits and who doesn't. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more biology and biomedical science videos. And as always, I hope you had fun, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you later.